Rest of the board. Tony,
Mr. Chairman, he did this evening.
Do not knock the Costco
Thank you.
tables.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, and welcome to the October 11th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll begin by reading the notice. After we do that, we'll call the first case. When you hear your matter called, please come up to the podium and in a loud, clear voice, state your name and address for the record. All right. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, October 11, 2022 at the Town Hall West, 401 West Main Street, Islip, New York, on the following applications at the times listed or soon thereafter as they may be reached, and at such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. Dated October 11, 2022, John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we're going to go out of order for our first matter. It's case number 712-22. William and Dolores Conley. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68602 and to leave driveway having a side yard of 0.3 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence A District, south side of Rosemary Place, number 44, 300 feet west of Campbell Lane, East Islip, New York. Ma'am, sir, welcome. Your name and address for the record, please.
Dolores and William Conley, 44 Rosemary Place, East Islip, New York.
How are you tonight?
Very good, thank you.
Good, thanks. Seeking permission to establish an accessory apartment. It appears that everything's in order. Apartment's 537 and a half square feet. Driveway complies. The side yard of the driveway we see probably every week that we're here for
Okay.
that, so it seems to
Okay.
be. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we grant the application for a period of 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, see you in 3 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good evening.
Thank you.
Next application, returning to the top of our agenda, number 708-22, Hamdi El Kholi. Permission to use dwelling for two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68419.1. Residence A District, east side of Edgewood Avenue, number 179, 302.66 feet north of Shelter Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Hamdi El Kholi, 179 Ronkonkoma, Edgewood Avenue.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. You're seeking permission to use family, two-family, family use only. Medical is the criteria. Everything seems to be in order. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan will take a motion. 3 years. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Our next application,
Have a good
Mr. Chairman,
Thank
is
you.
number 709-22, Jason and Jennifer Kurz. Permission to leave retaining walls on side property lines not having a required setback of 4 feet each. Residence A District, south side of Jones Street, number 406, 105 feet east of 9th Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Ms. Trella, name and address for the record, please. Welcome.
Good evening, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So we're here for the retaining wall being on the side property line. The height of the retaining wall varies depending on the grade. We were able to locate 2 precedents in the area, one at 0 feet and one at 0.2 feet, right down the road for the retaining wall.
Here you can see. Great on the survey.
It's even better on the photos we just.
All right. Deirdre, any objection from planning? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? It looks nice. Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Next application, number 710-22, Edgardo Medina. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68602. Residence AA District, east side of Maple Place, number 27, 700 feet north of Oak Street, Central Islip, New York. Welcome back, Ms. Trella. Please enter your appearance.
Good evening again, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here to establish an accessory apartment. The dwelling is owner occupied. The apartment is 348 square feet, and the driveway was denied by engineering, but it was solely because it needs a DPW permit to install a town-approved apron. It does meet all of the other requirements.
Great, so obviously that would be rectified prior to.
Yes.
All right, good. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Next application number 711-22, Elwin Fernandez, and Jose Guerrero, permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68602 to leave egress window having a side yard of 8.5 instead of required 14 feet, shed having a side yard of 3 instead of required 4 feet, and driveway having front yard occupancy of 68.6% instead of permitted 35%. Residence A District, east side of Wilson Boulevard, number 665, 5,017.48 feet south of Kelly Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Ms. Trella, please enter your appearance again. Thank you.
Good evening, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. We are here for a shed having a side yard of 3 instead of 4 feet. It's a small shed. It's 204 square feet located to the rear of the yard. An egress window having a side yard of 8.5 feet instead of the required 14 feet. It is the egress window that is to be installed in the bedroom located in the accessory apartment, and this was the only wall available due to the configuration of the room. We're also here to establish an accessory apartment. The home is owner occupied. The square footage of the apartment is 738 square feet. And the driveway was denied by engineering due to the front yard occupancy, which we are also here for. The front yard occupancy is 68.6 instead of the permitted 35. And I have spoken to the client to reduce that front yard occupancy to 40%, which is the magic number that the board likes to hear.
Magic number.
There's no magic number here, Ms. Trella, despite what the chairman says.
All right. Oh, yeah.
It's not magic, it's more mystical.
I would say it's aspiration.
Dan, what word do you use?
Yeah, I need another mystical word here.
Well, it seems that the other part of the application is de minimis, the egress window. I'm sure that planning does not have an issue with, correct? Or you objection? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion. She's going to 40%.
40%.
Motion is denied, the front yard occupancy of 68.6% instead of grant front yard occupancy of 40% to grant the permission to establish the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years and the grant the balance of the application.
All in favor?
Next application was adjourned previously from September 20th, 2022. It is number 674-22, Anthony J. and Lauren F. DeMayo. Permission to leave pool deck on side and rear property lines, not having required setback of 10 feet each, shed having rear yard of 1.7 feet instead of required 2 feet, shed on side property line, not having required setback of 2 feet, and not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling and driveway on side property line, not having required setback of 4 feet, Residence B District, west side of Carl Drive, number 1080, 102.48 feet north of Damon Street, Bay Shore, New York. Ms. Trella, when you begin your presentation, please remind us as to why this was adjourned from September 20th.
Good evening again, Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. This application was previously before the board and adjourned because 2 of the sheds were left off of the call of the meeting.
Thank you.
So beginning with the sheds, we have one small 7x7. It's more of a garbage enclosure, lawn equipment storage. And that shed is also 16 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of the required 20. We have a second shed, 10x12, which has the rear yard of 1.7 feet instead of the required 2 feet. We're also here for the driveway on the side property line. Instead of the required 4 feet. However, when looking at the property, it seems that this driveway may predate the code. It's located on the survey back from 2011. The client was previously before the board in 2015. They did not include it at that time either. So it looks like zoning had determined that it predated the code back then. However, I couldn't confirm because the GIS website is down to see if it was there before the code change. And we are also here for the pool deck on the side and rear property line, not having the required 10 feet. It's a small deck. It's only around half of the pool. It's about 2 feet in height. It abuts the neighbor's shed and the other neighbor's furthest rear point of the yard. And I did include a picture. They did include a privacy screen on the top of their fence. And she did speak to the neighbor. We did not obtain anything in writing, but they did verbally say that they had no issue with it. It's been there for a couple of summers. There are no complaints on file with the town, nor have they ever been called in.
How high is that deck?
2 feet.
That looks a lot higher than 2 feet.
I had the surveyor measure it. I did
But
not
look at-
measure it
look at the photo.
personally.
Just
I
look at
see
what
it.
we're looking at.
The pool has got to be 4 feet.
The pool's
The pool's semi in
Even
ground.
if the pool is 3 feet. I mean, there's 4 steps there.
It is,
Has to be 3 or 4 feet high.
It's probably
Yeah, but the
six
survey
inches,
is wrong. I mean,
right? So
unless this
that's
picture is
24
not of
inches.
the property.
So it's probably around 2 feet, maybe a little bit more.
Either judge, 32 inches, almost 3 feet,
I'm just,
6 foot fence probably.
Can you go back, can you go back to the aerial, please?
when people are standing on the deck and they look.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So where is the pool on this property? In that corner?
I'm just trying to figure, the fence is 6 feet.
Right.
So.
No, the fence is 8 feet. That whole-
Because it has the privacy screen?
Yeah, it's right here.
So
Oh,
let's say.
That's a 3 foot high deck.
So you gotta be about 6'5". Well, no, because it's not solid, so you have, if somebody is 5'5", they can look right into, right?
So even guys like you and me, huh? Mr.
Yeah, right,
West?
exactly. Sullivan would be just a clear shot. I don't wanna look. Wow. So when the people are walking on their deck, they can just look over their shoulder and they're looking, they have no, how do the neighbors get privacy? They don't.
On that piece of the property, but it's in the rear portion that's not typically used by the neighbor and the other
How do you
neighbor.
know- I mean, how do you know what's typically used by the neighbor?
Just from speaking with the property owner, and I did ask them to go and speak with the neighbors. The neighbors didn't have an issue. They've never called in a complaint to
I
the
know.
town.
I doubt the property owner, your client would say, oh, they use it all the time. I know they're really gonna be bothered. They're not gonna say that. Come on. That's not all out. It's reality. It's just so close and I don't know. Mr. Chairman, what are your thoughts on this?
my thoughts are,
And it's right up against the fence.
my thoughts are, even if we had to cut it back, they can still look over. What's the difference? I mean, it's not, the pool's 10 feet off the property line, and it's a semi in the ground.
The pool I don't care about, just the deck.
Why don't we do life for the,
Bill, look at where
life
it
for the
is.
pool and back?
They're not- there's nothing overlooked.
But what is, can you zoom in a little?
Yeah,
on
but
that?
you're gonna look right into the adjoining neighbor's yard,
Yeah.
Mr.
Where,
Nicolia.
the driveway?
Right to the backyard.
It's a clear shot.
Who
I mean,
knows?
there's a shed right in front of it.
Would you want people looking in your backyard?
No, they're not gonna
Hang
see
on, I gotta change glasses.
So the one immediate behind it, it is right
It's 6
up
feet.
against the shed.
Yeah,
So
one
it's,
immediately behind it, there's a shed right there, so they're not seeing, they're not.
But we can't assume that
Right.
down the line
True.
that they're not going to utilize that part of the property. So
No.
they're still looking in the yard, no matter whether they're looking at a shed or not. looking in the yard.
You don't get any privacy. With the fence, at 6 feet or 8 feet, you have privacy. They have no, as I said, you're up, you're, anybody over 5 foot, look right in. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Do you have any thoughts on that, Ms. Trella,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
on our concerns about privacy?
I
We all
think
like our privacy.
that was the reason that they installed a privacy screening above the
But you can
fence.
still see right through it. Isn't there a song about prying eyes?
I mean, the pool would be more of a concern to me, and the pool meets all the setbacks. This is,
Well, that's a
it's,
concern to you. The concern to the board is the privacy of the neighbor. How do you address
they tried to address it by putting a privacy
Okay.
screening. I don't, as far as, the height, it's, I guess it's between 2 and 3 feet, the deck. They put the privacy screening. They have one neighbor that has a shed. They have one neighbor that isn't utilizing really that side of the yard. And then they have another neighbor where their pool is close to the rear yard but maintains a distance. Like I said, they've never had an issue with a neighbor before.
Thank you.
Not that I'm an expert in this at all, but
What, I'm prying on your neighbors? I've heard otherwise, John.
I'm speechless right now. I'm not too sure that the height of the fence is not going to get brought back into this also, just to let you know.
I did speak to them about the possibility of that. And if they were to cut back the deck, I would only ask that we maintain, the state standards.
Why don't they just
for
lower
a
the deck
platform.
instead of cutting it back?
Okay. What would be an acceptable height? If
A lot
we
of people
came,
have it just off the ground, like 4 inches, 5 inches, so you don't have that problem.
Even if you wanted to have 2 steps instead of 4, to me
Right.
personally, that's not as offensive. You have 4 steps there. You have to cut it down to 2.
I just want to make sure that they would still be able to get into this pool. So they don't have,
That's what I said. Cut back when-
And Ms. Trellis, suppose this board, just hypothetically, would do something like saying you can't have a 6-foot fence. So they had to cut it back, then they're really short.
a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence?
Well, it's
What-
8 foot.
You have a 6-foot fence with 2 feet of lattice on
Which
top of it.
So
8
that
foot.
if the 2 feet were to be
Well,
removed,
You could potentially have that, but as Ms. Passaro has pointed out to me, you don't meet the qualifications of it. So you have to be 15% opaque, I have been advised. You're more like 50. So
I think we should reserve, I'm going to take up Mr. Sullivan's impressions.
Well, if there's a plan B,
if,
Um,
if I can have them lower it, lower the deck to 2 feet maximum in height, would that be sufficient for the board?
still have the same issue with the fence though, right?
We'll have an 8-foot fence.
Well, the survey is
Yeah.
clearly wrong.
So if we were to measure it and make sure that it is at a 2 feet height.
You get
and
2 steps.
We're
You
going to
get 2
remove,
steps, not 4.
well, so that would be,
18, about 18 inches
So
probably.
if
18
it was
inches.
lowered to something like 6 inches off the ground, but then you still have the 8-foot fence, and if you lower the fence, then you still have somebody who's 5'2" can look in.
Look, the fence isn't before us though, right?
the fence is not before you,
What?
no. The fence is not on the application, no.
Okay, so we're not granting you, to be clear, a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence. Okay? The fence is the fence and you'll deal with code and whoever else you got to deal with.
I
Wanna
think
give
18
them-
inches or below, I don't think you have to worry about it, so.
Yeah, 18 inches or below,
You want to cut it to 18 inches?
I think-
but that's assuming we're allowed to go right to the property.
It's okay by me. I mean,
Okay, at least that's,
6 feet off.
only tall people can look in.
Well, that's-
I don't know if there's any tall people here.
Tall.
yeah.
Very
A pool deck still requires 6 feet if it's less than 18 inches, right?
Yes.
If it's between 18 and 48.
Then it would be the 6
6
feet
feet.
instead
Want
of
to
the 10.
reserve,
Honestly, if they're gonna cut it down to 18 inches or a little over 18 inches, they're gonna rebuild the whole deck anyway. Give them the 5 feet off the property line, make it
I don't
right.
think that they can make it profit.
That- they're right against the property line.
They'll make it, give it, they can have 6 feet at 18 inches.
Excuse me?
They're
Yeah, I
allowed
missed
6
that. They
feet
give them
at
6
18
feet.
inches high at a pool deck.
There's a 6-foot setback.
Yeah.
They have 0 setback.
I'm saying, but if they're gonna take the deck apart anyway,
They
and
should.
lower it, they're gonna rebuild it
You might as well
anyway, so
comply, is
might as
what you're
well
saying.
comply. Rebuild
Yeah,
the
I just don't know if
property.
there's room there for them to comply, in fairness.
I don't think that's
I don't think it would give them
I
the
don't think that's
room
the answer.
for them to get
So
in.
there's 10 feet, they could have 4 feet of decking around the pool.
You want to reserve? And
Please.
Figure it, yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard?
I have a really clear picture of the pool with the decking around it.
So I don't know how everybody else feels, but I have no objection if Ms. Trella wants to submit something, give her 2 weeks if she wants. Is
Right, right.
that all right? You know,
Absolutely, thank
That
you.
way, if you come up with something, it's hard when you're on the spot.
Yes,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Do they, I don't know, maybe before we, not to belabor the point, but Mr. Coley said that doesn't look like wood, and I said, yes, it doesn't. He said it's called Trex,
Tracks.
which is another question. Do they make?
Plastic wood.
Yeah, do they make a delineation on surveys? Because.
No.
So they would call it wood no matter what it was?
This surveyor will.
Plastic wood,
Yeah.
wood.
Apparently he did.
Yeah, I mean, that is.
That's
it
true.
does kind of call into
Could be made
question-
out of paving stones. He's right.
It does call into question the survey, and the height is off, and it's not wood, it's plastic. I mean,
Somebody had a bad day.
who was this, who's the surveyor?
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
All right.
We're going to give,
We're going to give Ms. Trella 2 weeks to,
To submit on.
Yeah.
Submit something, okay.
Motion to give her 2 weeks. to submit.
you don't need a motion, Mr. Nicole. We're all people of honor here and integrity.
2 weeks, I got it.
Speak to yourself.
Thank you. Have a
have
good
a great
night.
night.
Next application number 713-22, Daniel and Jamie Pasani. Permission to leave shed having rear yard of 1.4 feet instead of the required 4 feet, and shed having a side yard of 0.2 feet instead of required 2 feet. Residence B District, east side of Washington Avenue, number 95, 42 feet north of McKinley Street, Islip Terrace, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, and how glad are you don't have a pool deck?
Michael Arado, Captain Permit 245 Route 109, West Babylon. It's ARATO. You got it.
How are you tonight?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. So you have 2 sheds, a little bit too close. We see them every meeting that we have, and they usually get granted.
Usually.
We have to vote on it, though. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Thank you.
All in favor?
All right.
Application
Next
granted.
application number 714-22, Richard and Lillian Boccieri. Permission to leave in-ground pool having rear yard of 13.9 feet instead of the required 14 feet. Shed not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Residence A District, west side of Seabreeze Lane, number 18, 627.72 feet northwest of Snedeker Avenue, West Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York.
Forgive me, Mr. Bertolino, I have my reading glasses on. I didn't recognize you.
Oh, again?
Welcome.
You did that to me once before.
Yeah, well,
Anyway, good to see you. That being said, I'll start with the pool. We're getting better, Mr. Wexler. We're at 13.9 instead of, I think last time I was here was 13.2. So hope,
Someday you'll even comply.
there are a few out there that do, I can assure you. You just don't see those. So, years ago, you used to have a foot leeway in the town, and then they cut that off on us. So we wound up here. Anyway, I don't think the board has any issues with the pool. Certainly address it if you need me to. I believe the shed is about 4 feet from the front line of the house. It is fully enclosed with shrubbery from the front. You cannot see this shed from the street. It is only 7.5 feet in height. In the front of the house, there is a small retaining or landscape wall, and then there's a lot of shrubs in front of it. So if you're looking from across the street to the subject property, you don't see the shed. The neighbor to the south, who would be affected by this as well, we've spoken to them. They have no issue with this shed at all, and it's also barely visible from their backyard because their border is shrubbed as well.
What is it on that side of their property that abuts the shed? I can't make
That's
that.
just
It's in a shadow or something.
yeah. It's just a walkway and shrubs. It's just a shadow from the
It
house.
looks like
there.
there's a structure there or something. Again, it's your neighbor's property, not yours, but if there's a structure there, it's more beneficial to you. I would
There's no
think.
structure there.
Did any of their kids run track? I mean,
No, you see what I'm talking
No,
about?
the fence is intact. They'd have to cut a hole in the fence
Right
and
next
go
to the
through.
garage, right on the property. Doesn't it look like there's something there?
The entire backyard on the surface.
Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Di Nicola, I don't think that's before you at the moment, but
I was just out of curiosity.
I would say somebody did a computation and it works. Let's go with that one.
I'm okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I will take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Next application number 71522, Wojcik and Malgorzata E. Baldiga. Permission to leave addition to attached garage 11.2 feet by 12 feet, having side yard of 5.42 feet instead of required 10 feet, and pool patio having rear yard of 1.5 feet instead of required 6 feet. Residence A District, north side of Sac Street, number 3, 75 feet east of Castle Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Is there anyone here on this application? Second call, please, Mr. Chairman. Next application, Mary Macedonia, number 716-22. Permission to leave raised pool patio, having a side yard of 5 feet and rear yard of 6 feet, instead of required 10 feet each. Residence B District, north side of Collington Drive, number 313, 145.04 feet east of Port Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please. Little sketchy time to come with a pool patio, huh?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Mary Macedonia. My address is 313 Collington Drive, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good, thank you.
So you have the dreaded pool patio that's raised. And
How high is it?
How high is it? It depends on the,
Survey.
well, yes, but also the grade of the yard, which is kind of on a slope. It's
How
about
high
20
is it at its highest point?
I think it's about 20 inches at its highest point. It goes
Okay,
from 0
fine,
to like
thank you.
20.
And it's 5 feet and 6 feet instead of 10.
Yeah.
No.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
All right,
Application granted. Have a great night.
don't tell Ms.
Thank
Trello.
you.
Next application, number 717-22, Levin Artola Canales. Permission to leave in-ground pool having side yard of 13 feet instead of required 14 feet, pool patio having rear yard of 2 feet instead of required 6 feet, and a shed having a side yard of 3.3 instead of 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Lloyd Drive, number 14, 170.32 feet northwest of Candlewood Road, Brentwood, New York. Sir, ma'am, your names and addresses for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Levin Artola, and I live in 14 Lloyd Drive, Brentwood, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good.
And who is with you, sir?
My daughter.
Her name?
Aaron Artola.
And you live at the same address? Thank you.
Correct. So you're here seeking permission to leave an in-ground pool, 13 instead of 14. Seems de minimis. Pool patio, 2 instead of required 6 on that one side right there, the northerly side. And the shed, 3.3 instead of 4, just in that one corner. It complies everywhere else. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Good night.
Next
Thank you.
application, number 718-22, Edgar Acquia and Fabian Acquia. Permission to leave one-story addition 13 feet by 43 feet, having a side yard of 9.8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and rear yard of 13 feet instead of required 25 feet. Roof deck and stairs, having a side yard of 7 feet instead of required 14 feet, and roofed over entrance platform, having a front yard of 19 feet instead of permitted encroachment setback of 20 feet, all having a floor area ratio of 27.9% instead of permitted 25%, to leave patio and wall on rear property line, not having required setback of 4 feet, and to maintain rear yard landscaping of 21.7% instead of the required 40%. Residence B District, west side of Lowell Avenue, number 676, 403.66 feet north of Dawn Crescent, Central Islip, New York. Mr. Aponte, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Angel Aponte, A-P-O-N-T-E. I reside at 1330 Washington Avenue, Bay Shore, New York, 11706. And I'm here as the agent for Mr. Fabian Aquila. We have this triangular-shaped property, which when they built the house originally, was pushed over to the left of it. The owners back in, I believe it's 2002, did this addition when their family was larger. They are now the only inhabitants of this property, and they have kept everything basically the same as is. The roofed over deck is over a first floor space, which is part of that addition that we're here for, and the stairs comes off of that, which is closer to the property line, which you have already mentioned. The front setback is a roof over that was originally with the house. I'm not sure, maybe that was de minimis back then, just got approved, but that has had no changes since the owner bought the house. And then the lot coverage, which I think is one of the biggest things, is primarily because this corner, if you're familiar with this neighborhood, is pretty much at the dead end of a really sharp turn. I like the board to recognize that earlier today, and I hope the people are okay, but at 2 o'clock, somebody wrapped their car around a telephone pole there. So it is a dangerous corner. And
You're saying that's a dead end?
no, it's at the dead end of a turn, like a really sharp turn. It's not a dead
I see
end,
that
but you-
street across, I see.
Yeah, so people come down Lowell at
I got it.
crazy speeds,
Yep,
and
I-
they usually end up
Yeah,
crashing.
she
into
zoomed
this-
out. I understand. that.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
lady's property. So 2 o'clock today, actually, there was an accident there. So these people have their personal cars, their work vehicles, and their recreational vehicles that they have now had to continue to pave and keep them on the property so that they don't keep getting hit.
You don't want to mention recreational vehicles, Mr. Aponte. You'll get yourself in a little bit of a jam.
If you have a really nice car, what do you call it?
I think our council could write something pretty good to
Yeah.
differentiate why we're giving it to zone in the corner. Right
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
that's not- All right. She's no Willie, but I'm sure she can do what she's good.
I'm sure she's better.
She's better.
No,
I'm just kidding with you. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan will take a motion.
second.
All in favor?
All right.
Application granted.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
Next application number 719-22, Daniel and Melissa Longaro. Permission to leave above ground pool having second front yard, of 7 feet instead of required 27 feet. Pool deck having second front yard of 10.8 feet instead of the required 22 feet. Pool filter having second front yard of 6.5 feet instead of the required 27 feet. Shed having a second front yard of 12 feet instead of the required 27 feet. And having 5 feet behind the front line of the dwelling instead of required 20 feet. And 6-foot fence on the property line. Not having a required setback of 10 feet. Residence A District, southwest corner of 41st Street, number 32 and Broadway Avenue, Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please, as well as the gentleman who's with you.
Brian Fiore, 208 North Wisconsin Avenue, Massapequa, New York, architect.
Daniel Longaro, 32 41st Street in Islip.
Welcome, gentlemen.
How are you both tonight?
Doing good. So we're here, we have another application for a rear addition that's under construction now. And these items came up during the plan review. So, corner lot, pool, deck, shed, pool equipment are all forward into the second front yard. They're all behind a 6-foot fence. The fence is set back from the corner. The fence isn't blocking any lines of sight from traffic or the neighbors behind them. They have the property to the south has their driveway all the way on the other side of the lot also.
So that neighbor that's behind you looks like he has almost the mirror image of what you have. Is that there legally?
Correct.
You know?
Yeah, that's the larger part of their lot. It's I guess that would be their side yard.
Do you know if that's there legally? No, the property to the left of yours. I understand this.
We weren't referencing that property. What were you asking on it?
Did you do any research? Do you know if they were granted a variance for the same relief or any relief?
Well, they're not on the corner. but, oh.
I'm
so you're
aware.
talking about
I
their
can
pool.
see, I can see. You're the second one to say that to me, so you're bearing the brunt of it.
No, I'm not sure.
You and Ms.
if that's
Pissarro, if you're
legal or not.
texting each other, should stop that right now. No, but I mean, if they had gotten variance relief for something similar, that would inure to your benefit. Do you know if they've gotten any variance relief?
No.
Okay.
So-
No, they haven't, or no, you don't know?
We don't know for
Okay,
sure.
fine.
But
That's a fair, yeah. It's an honest answer. That's all I'm asking for. Ms. Ryan, could you help us with that? Is it there legally? We don't know.
It might
It
be.
might be. But do they have a CO? All right. Thank you.
So can we break,
And-
let's just break,
the Longeros did purchase the house in 2009 with a pool fence.
Yeah,
there.
that doesn't really help you.
so two things. Your stockade fence is not on your property line, so we only can see up to the property line. So that's where we're gonna leave it at. That's why it's called that way in the call of the meeting. It is an above-ground pool. We do see, I think the code was changed. If property is 11,250 or smaller, the 6-foot fence could be on a property line. This is a little over 12. We see up to 12.5, I believe the board does. We stretch it a little bit if we can. So we're not too far off on that. It is an above-ground pool. If the board sees fit, maybe life of the pool, they have to comply if they have to take the pool down or fix it or move it. It is not really impacting anyone other than Broadway, which is a road. And it is an above-ground pool. That's just my theory and thought on it and opinion on it. If anyone else would like to give me their opinion, I would love to hear.
You're unopinionated.
These are huge variances, Mr. Chairman. Huge.
But what's it really affecting? No, it's affecting Broadway. There's no neighbor right there.
Is the pool is semi in ground?
No, it just says above ground, 24-inch,
It might be a
24-inch oval above ground or
I
round.
think it's 18 inches long.
I don't know. If it's,
Right, so it's not the full 4 foot that we typically see for an above ground pool?
Yeah. it's a
Correct.
little bit longer, yeah.
You're okay with 6 foot fence?
What do you want to take a look?
I'm okay at 6-foot fence because of the size of the property, and we stretch it a little bit. And again, the above ground pool, I don't know who it's really affecting.
What's the size of the property?
It's 12,000, just a little over 12,000.
We've
One-
done
one-
it 12.5, is that our?
I believe
don't
we've gone
remember that.
close to 12,000. Yeah, so not, it has to be on a property line, yeah. Yeah, it did. As I said before, if the board sees fit to grant this, the fence has to be on the property line. We can't.
Right. I believe it's state code also. If you have a pool, it has to be on your property.
Yeah,
fence.
you're off the property line according to the survey.
Yes.
That's just my opinion, but I'll go with anyone. That's an opinion, Mr. Messina, Mr. Wexler.
John, Mr. Chairman, I think you bring up a good question. Who's really affected by this?
The problem is that the sizes of the variances are 50%, 75%, over 75%. I mean, go right down the line. Okay, it's a self-created hardship. You have substantial variances. You know, it's a balancing test. And on those two factors, hands down, they lose, right? So then you go to, there's, I don't know. I don't see well, I have a difficult time. I acknowledge your point, but I have a difficult time granting variances of this magnitude.
If this was
The
not,
balancing test is the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the community.
Well, no, it's 5
No,
factors
but
that you
consider the
weigh.
5 factors. And where is the detriment to the community? That's
But-
what, other than precedent.
But that's in the
No.
5 factors, okay? And that's the result of the 5 factors. That's the conclusion, not the analysis.
I mean, almost nothing that we hear is a detriment to the community. Somebody has their deck a little larger, somebody has their house. It doesn't destroy, it doesn't burn down the community. So
No, but
I-
we talk about privacy.
but however, if this was not a corner property, a second front yard property, we've seen above ground pools with this much of a relief.
Okay, but it is a corner property.
But hang on a second, we did life of the pool, we do life of most of them, I'm not sure, I'm not exactly sure which ones, but we've done life of the pool, I believe, on a lot of them. And that has a residence next to it. This is affecting a street.
Maybe the street
And I think the life of the pool is a good point also. I mean, if you're just granting it for the life of the pool itself, then it
Yeah,
would
and realistically, how are we gonna check on that? Yeah, we do it and, whatever.
Well, I'm sure the applicant would call the town immediately when he.
I don't know, I don't, I'm with you guys, whatever you want to do, but I don't have.
Want a reserve on it?
I don't.
The pool itself is about 10 years old.
I pay due homage to our vice chairman. I gotta butter him up now. because Things may change, will change in January, so. Mr. Vice
Oh,
Chairman
boy.
and Mr. I gotta vote. These
I-
two, the
I'd-
left side of the table is important, the right side.
I'd stick with the chairman if I were you, Mr. Wexler. It's a much safer place to be.
Want a reserve?
Nah, look, if Mr. Nicole and Mr. Sullivan are inclined to grant, I'll be fine. So be it.
What say you guys down there on the, as he says, I mean, they're not so important.
Yeah,
but it's
so
important.
I'm okay with it, okay.
Mr. Sullivan? Well, then we lose 3-2 anyway, so, all right, we'll make it unanimous.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board
You're
have any
welcome,
press
Mr.
questions?
Nicole,
Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. to grant the-
for the life
For
of
the
the
life of the
pool.
pool.
For the life of the pool.
And you got to move your fence.
And you have
Yes.
to.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye. Next application number 720-22, Luke Mechanical, Inc. Permission to leave two-story detached garage, 20.9 feet by 24.4 feet, having side yard of 5 feet, rear yard of 6.3 feet instead of required 10 feet each, and having a height of 18 feet instead of permitted 14 feet to leave in-ground pool, having a side yard of 12.6 feet instead of required 18 feet, pool patio having a side yard of 3.5 feet and on rear property line instead of required 6 feet each, and to maintain rear yard landscaping of 8% instead of permitted 40%. Residence AAA District north side of Woodcrest Drive, number 21, 130 feet west of Fairview Place, Hauppauge, New York. Welcome back, Mr. Fiore. Your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Fiore, 208 North Wisconsin Avenue, Massapequa, New York, architect.
How are you again?
21 Woodcrest Drive, Hauppauge, New York. Leonardo Umana. Leonardo Umana.
All right, appearing on behalf of Leonardo of LUC Luke Mechanical. He's the owner of the property at 21 Woodcrest Drive. Requesting multiple variances for accessory structures constructed without permits by the prior owners. This property was purchased as is and was bank owned about a year and a half ago. The property was in complete disarray with open permits and really illegal conditions, unkept, and with a history of issues on the property with illegal rentals and things like that. He spent the past year and a half cleaning up the property, both interior and exterior, making it more family friendly for the surrounding properties because it really was a blight, I think, in the community. When I first met him there was drug paraphernalia, there was kitchens where they shouldn't be. So just keep that in mind as we request these variances. He is putting a big improvement on this property. That
We'll
was
keep that in mind. How do we keep in mind the 18-foot garage?
well, we'll get there. So we have a two-story detached garage.
You might want to skip ahead to that.
Why don't we
Yeah.
start with the garage?
We're starting with the garage, two-story detached garage, 20.9 by 24.4. It has a mansard style roof. It's built with 5-foot side yard and 6.3 rear yard, where 10 feet's required. We believe this garage was constructed sometime between 2001 and 2004. I know the height changed in 2003 from 18 feet to 14 feet.
It wasn't 18 feet.
Yeah.
Was it?
So in 2001, there was a permit issued for major construction at the house with not including the garage, but multiple additions and porches. And we believe the garage was built at that time. I have an aerial view by year that we emailed over. If it's not in there, there's a view from 2004. It's kind of hard to see because it's not the clearest picture, but it does show the garage was there in 2004, and the pool in 2001. The additions were there, but it only lets us view 2004 and 2001. I have it here if it's not on your file.
How many apartments are in the garage?
Correct. Currently, it's been gutted down to the studs. There are no, it's unfinished. It's been restored fully to a garage. When I first went there, there was a second story door with stairs, and it's all been removed.
The height of the garage is disturbing to me with that huge mansard roof.
Correct.
Big, bulky things.
So we have,
And they're already ripping it down.
well, the property right next door has a garage with a variance 18 feet high, and it's much larger. It's 25 by 20, 25.3 by 25.3. In 2018, variance was granted, saying that it's 18 feet high and it was existing prior to the 2003 code amendment. So I have a copy of that. And
So could you have proof that this garage was built prior to the zone change?
well,
That code change?
we have proof of an aerial view that it was there. It was built. I don't have exact proof, but it was between 2001 and 2004. I don't have an aerial photo between the exact date it was built.
Just so the record's clear and there's no misunderstanding, the prior that you told us about, the next door neighbor, it was granted because, and I'm reading verbatim, sufficient proof of the existence of the garage prior to the 2003 code amendment.
Correct.
So they had sufficient proof.
Well, I have pretty good proof it was built between 2001 and 2004, 2003.
Pretty good
It's
proof?
pretty close. So, I mean, I don't know if you have this, but it was emailed
Why
over.
don't you stand up what your pretty good proof is?
I could, these are time-lapsed aerial views.
Give it to the officer, he'll hand it up.
Now, which is greater, really good proof or pretty good?
Well, I guess that's for you guys to decide.
Or just plain old proof?
Deirdre, I saw you clicking through the aerials. I can't see that far.
It's really hard to see. There's a red box around the property. There's a blurry garage in the 2004 and the pool.
Can I just?
Ms. Ryan, what do you
Deirdre real
got?
quick?
There was a structure there on the original survey that we had done, because they needed to do amended plans for the permit from 2001, and we obviously had to get a new survey for this. But on the original survey that was used for the original permit, there was another structure back there that's been removed and replaced with this one.
I don't know. I'm looking at it. I don't know if anybody has a different view. I can't tell what was actually there from the 2004. Was it that garage or a different?
Looks like
No, that
something
matches.
pretty substantial though, whatever it was.
If you look at all the years prior, after 2004, it's the same
Oh,
garage.
does
there.
it? Okay, we haven't had that. Would you show us, let's say, whatever, 2005, 2006?
I know. But it's pretty.
Okay, so let's, wait, 2010 is pretty clear. You go back to 2000, what's this? Let's go 2007. Yeah, it looks like it's still there, and then 2004. It looks like it's there.
Your pictures are a lot clearer than mine.
All right, so you were right, in 2001, 2004.
Correct.
Ish.
Yeah.
So in '01, it's not there, '04 it is there?
Mhm.
So the setback requirement changed from 4 feet to 10 feet for structures over 500 square feet in 2000. Did you reference a 2001 permit?
Not for the garage, but for other work, which is probably why the garage was built in
Probably
conjunction
when it got built.
with the other work. In 2001, was there a permit that they had?
Ms. Ryan, Ms. Ryan, what do you have to say?
Oh, right.
Anything?
He's, there were definitely apartments wherever they could have been made on this property by the prior owners. So they've all been removed.
So the question becomes, what do we do to ensure that that
Well,
doesn't happen again?
There was an exterior stair to the second floor, which has been removed, with a doorway that's been removed. And that was the only way to the second floor. And right now, it's fully gutted down to the studs, first and second floor. There's a
You throw up
garage.
some sheetrock, you
Should
put
be.
up some
It's
dividing
not
walls,
sheetrock,
you know, you're back in three
And
three apartments.
there's a pull down. He added a pull down attic stair for the storage
We all have
in
that
the attic.
sneaking suspicion that's going to be habitable space. It's just, you can't get rid of it.
Right.
All right.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? One at a time, and if you come on up and name and address for the record and speak clearly so our court reporter can get a good record.
Okay, my name is John Bucaro. I live at 16 Woodcrest Drive in Hopog.
How
B as in boy, UCARO.
how are you tonight, sir?
I'm okay, thank you. Unfortunately, this structure was built without permits. It was illegal. There have been complaints on this property dating back to 13 years about that structure and the way it was being used. It was being used as a rental. We've had people have died on that property who are renters. People have run businesses out of that structure. There's been numerous rentals, and that's actually my concern. And I believe there's two other letters besides mine in the file that oppose this structure getting a variance. They're correct. He's done a tremendous job in renovating that building. It was in total disrepair. I don't think we have a problem, anybody, with the pool being there. Our main concern is that that structure, if it's given a variance, can easily be converted to an apartment as it was before.
Suppose he sold it next month, then the person can come in, he may be honorable, but the person.
Well, that's my concern, is
Yeah,
that's
no,
exactly my
we see this
point.
all the
You
time.
beat me to my point. I mean, he's been a great guy.
Right.
All right, and he's raised a nice family. I mean, I have no objections, on anything else but that structure. And honestly, I have 53 emails between myself, the town attorney, my councilman, and Mr. Mistretta from Code Enforcement, trying to advise Leon or whoever was buying that property that it shouldn't be bought, that with those structures on there. I could give you those emails. They were, numerous emails going on because we wanted to make sure whoever was buying that knew that that structure was in contention.
Here's my concern, and I think that maybe we all have the same concern. It's your concern. You had to endure 13 years of, as you tell us, of illegal rentals and people habitating in that. And now it's almost as if we are facilitating what could be another 13 years.
Well, that's that.
And I don't know what we can do to prevent it from being habitable space. It's not enough for me, for an architect and the applicant say, oh, no, I would never do that. I mean, we didn't fall off.
I honestly believe that Leon wouldn't do it, but because he's got a family. But my point is what if he sells it? I mean, the guy who he bought it from, they ran into foreclosures. They were, a solid citizen. He lost his business. It became a problem. He was using it. He became a drug addict himself. I mean, it turned into a real, S show, for lack of a better term. And we called the town numerous times. They were limited in what they could do. I mean, if you go back, it really 13 years. And again, like I said, I was trying to be proactive when this property was sold by calling all the councilmen, like I said, Mistretta and Code Enforcement, the town lawyer, Pasecki, I guess, I forgot his name, but I have, and he, they all told me, they couldn't do it. And I was frustrated because I'm saying, so I would have to start the whole process over again if they put in a tenant into that building.
So I get your concerns, I get where you're coming from, but almost anything can be turned into an habitable space. He could just, the next owner could just as easily convert the garage to habitable.
Well, that's why I'm saying it shouldn't be there.
No, but saying height or not, 18 feet or 14 feet, they can turn, anyone can turn an accessory structure into even a single-story garage.
But that thing should have never been built to begin
Well,
with.
It's harder at 14 feet, that's why.
No, but it would be, you know, you can get rid of the garage, make it into an apartment.
So-
Anything can be made into habitable.
Well, it should,
space.
but it shouldn't even be there. It was never there.
I think we're here to discuss the height, right?
No, it's the whole
And the side
structure,
yard.
isn't it? He's
Side
looking for a
yard.
variance for that structure.
And it's too close to the side
So the
yard.
side yard, but I think the big hurdle for us is the height.
So but, you know, just to reiterate back on, there is a neighbor next to it with a larger detached structure. Now, the 18-foot to the peak is different than that, I don't know what kind of roof that is that the applicant has.
You know, I didn't know how that guy got that. I mean, he, you know, whether he worked for the town, but I don't,
So
you know.
18 feet to the peak, and that roof that he has is two totally different story.
But that's not, there's no, that's an open garage. There's no two stories.
There's no windows,
But-
you're right.
But that could easily be converted into an
Well,
apartment, you would
but-
never know.
So it shouldn't have been, so why did it get granted?
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying
I'm
too.
opposed to the structure on other ground.
How about the-
Rely and say it could be an apartment one day.
Well, I mean, if that was wrong and that shouldn't be
Hang on
there.
1 second. Let's hear from Deidre. She's been very patient.
Okay.
My concern is that this is really a two-story.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that two-foot high structure is ridiculous. The neighbors may have to return that, so that at least wasn't noted as a second story, classified as a second story. This is really definitely as
Second
a
story.
second story with the height of 18 feet, being close to the neighbor, that's a significant that he will grant.
I would hate to see this gentleman and his family be subjected to another 13 years, and we're almost facilitating it. It's two-story, it's got the windows. Yeah, okay, I'm good on that.
Mr. Fiore, do you want to come up with a plan B? You want some time?
I mean, I don't think, Leo, the homeowner would have any problems putting a new roof on there and putting it 14 feet.
Oh, wow. And that says a lot. Right to the chase.
all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, he'd rather not do that.
Yeah, what's I mean, the cost to bring that down to 14 feet? Roughly
It's not cheap.
20,000. And he's saying that his new neighbor's such a great guy, and he doesn't wish him any harm, but he's trying to impose a $20,000 bill on him.
Well, it's not.
Oh, whoa. The way you're selling that
Whoa.
though is way wrong. I'm concerned that he's gonna
That's
go and
not
rent
fair.
it, or the
You're-
person next to
I'm
him.
just telling you how
The
I
next,
see it.
well, what about the next person who he sells to?
What about the next person who buys your house? How do you know that they're not going to turn it into a 4-apartment plot?
You know,
Well, that's where you guys come into play, isn't it? Isn't that your job to
Let's go to-
enforce
Well, you know what,
the
this
law?
is
All right,
really
back
moot.
and
It's
forth.
moot because they're going to reduce it to 14
Right,
feet.
you're right.
Bickering back and
My
forth.
issue is.
But what about the side, what about the fact that it's so close to the other property?
well,
It should have never been built. Is it built to code? Who knows if it's even built to code?
Okay, thank you.
So we have the 14 feet out of the way, and one other thing that struck me is the landscaping of 8% instead of 40. That's substantial.
So
It's
I
an
think-
80% reduction.
So do you have anything else to say in the record?
I don't really have a problem with the other stuff, so no. It's just the fact that I think that structure is illegal in my opinion. I don't care about, you're saying the height, but the whole structure is illegal.
Okay, you're right. It was built without benefit of permit. You're correct.
And
Yeah,
it's a
but this gentleman here is.
Well, he's
kind of-
1 out of 5 votes.
And I told you, I'm opposed to the structure.
Pardon me?
I'm opposed to the structure. I just don't agree with your grounds for the position. That's it.
Well, I don't know how else to oppose it. That's,
You've
You're fine, sir.
done a very good job.
Very good job.
all right. I want to just make it clear, I have no objection on the pool or even, the landscaping thing.
No.
He's been a
You're-
good guy.
you're
It's
good.
just, this is proactive against if he
You're
sells.
doing what the law entitles you. You're a
No, I know,
concerned
but I
neighbor.
have to live next to him too,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
No,
saying? So I
we
don't,
appreciate
yeah,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
okay, thank you.
So there are more variances associated with this. I mean,
Just talk about the 80% in,
it,
yeah,
Yes,
just
we
stick
will.
around, we'll vote,
so,
or we'll reserve. but we'll vote to do
You know,
that.
they have detached garage, in the back corner of the property, there's a long driveway getting there. There's obviously a pretty large built-in pool with a patio, so all those
They can't have
features
it all.
are going to add up to a high percentage, but I think more importantly is the zone of the property, is the AAA zone. It's a 40,000 square foot lot zone minimum, and this lot is
Can I ask you something?
10,600. That's a pretty big difference if you're a 40,000.
But it's percentage based, so
Yeah.
it's really not.
But if
So let me
if this
ask you
exact-
this: is everything else on the CO that's on is the pool? Is everything else on the
No, we're
CO?
legalizing the pool.
So okay, I mean that's the problem with building things without a benefit of permit.
Correct. We're
So
here.
how do you get to 40% landscape?
It's impossible.
It's not impossible.
Well, with the pool and the garage and the driveway.
You'd have to take something out.
You have to take something out.
I mean, even the property, in the zone,
Fiore,
65 feet
Fiore,
wide.
You can't have somebody build and build and build without benefit and then say, look, it's impossible. Who created that impossibility?
The prior owners.
It's a
But
self-created
he
hardship.
steps into the shoes of the
course,
prior
of
owner.
course.
We know that.
Yep.
So how does he get down to up to 40%? You can't have 8%. That's an 80% reduction.
Right. I'm pretty sure the surface area of the pool, the driveway, and and the garage are right there.
Something's gotta go.
You got to have some
Something's
kind of
gotta give.
patio.
That's all.
Well, okay, but you don't have to necessarily get to 40, Mr. Wexler, because that's what the requirement is, right? So we'll grant some relief, I would assume.
Right. We could definitely, there's obviously a lot of patio there around the pool.
All right,
so we
you can
could
remove
definitely
patio.
reduce.
Why don't we let him get to 35% or 32%? We've got to maintain some dignity to the code.
Right. And if you look around, there's really, behind them is all woods.
32%. Yes.
There's two neighbors that are affected by this property on each
32%?
side. So
I'm
I
willing
don't
to
know
go
what
to 20.
percentage.
30,
Although, yeah,
I'd like to know what percentage.
20%.
20, that's a 50%. reduction.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All right.
You got to get to 20%.
20%.
Just
You're
because
at
just
8
because
now.
the
You gotta
neighbor
get-
came in and said he didn't have a problem with it, we'll give you 20%.
Sounds
Possible.
All right, you're at 8. We'll give you 20. Code says 40. I think we're being reasonable.
I think that's pretty, I think that's it. You can get there.
All right.
All right.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to deny so much of the application for the garage having the height of 18 feet instead of the permitted 14 feet. I would also move to deny that portion of the application to maintain rear yard landscaping of 8% instead of permitted 40%. However, grant a relief of 20, landscaping at 20%, a 50% reduction, and grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
There you
Have a
go.
great night, gentlemen.
Very well done, Mr. Messina.
Thank you.
You have-
Very well done, Mr. Fiore.
You have
It's not an
future
easy
in this
application.
office.
We gave him, his height has to comply on the shed, and we gave him a reduction in the landscaping of about 50%. Correct, but at the level, the height that's required by the code. Sir, that's our determination.
The second
Thank you.
story has to be entirely
Taken down.
reconstructed, removed.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Our next application, number 721-22, Westminster United Presbyterian Church. Permission to install a ground sign having an area of 24 square feet instead of permitted 12 square feet. Residence A District, east side of Udall Road, number 109, 62.77 feet north of Sylvia Drive, West Islip, New York. Ladies, your names and addresses for the record, please.
Good evening, board members. How are you?
Excellent.
My name is Carrie Riddle. I am the pastor at Westminster, and I live at 35 Tappan Avenue in Babylon, New York. Riddle.
How are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
You?
Good evening. My name is Lori Vu, VU. I live at 1020 Manor Lane, Bayshore, New York.
Thank you. How are you tonight?
So 24 whole square feet, huh?
That is correct.
And what do you intend to put on? I know
No,
it's
stop,
not
stop. We
I know
can't.
it's not gonna be Joe's Eats.
I don't know. I believe you have a copy of the sign.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
We can't regulate the
I
concept.
see on like,
No, I want to know what was the purpose of it.
The purpose for, the purpose for the new sign is we have a mission in our church, the Postpartum Resource Center, that's never been on our sign before. Just because when we had initially had the sign.
It's
made
okay. Our
years ago,
sign
it wasn't
ordinance
there.
is quirky.
And then in addition to that, the Presbytery of Long Island has moved into the facility as well. So now there's two places, so we just needed a new sign.
No, it looks totally appropriate for
Thank
where it is.
We even designed it.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that you grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Application granted.
Have a great
Have a
night.
wonderful night.
Thank you very much. I would just like to add that Austin, as well as Deirdre and Cynthia, have been really very lovely through this process. So thank you for
You
your
caught them
time.
on a good day.
Take care.
Next application, number 722-22, Arthur W. and Elise Y. Palata. Permission to erect second-story addition, leaving front yard 39.9 feet instead of the required 40 feet, and a floor area ratio of 30% instead of 25%, Residence A District, north side of Brashes Lane, number 35, 100 feet north of Pearson Court, Bay Shore, New York. I'm sorry, it's Bradish Lane. Mr. Dunn, welcome.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record, please.
I second that notion for the whole zoning staff.
You know, you're not going to get anywhere with that.
Michael Dunn, DUNN, at 256 Orinoco Drive in Bright Waters, New York, 11718.
Bringing such outrageous demands for relief here.
39.9 instead of 40.
I know. I
You're
don't
like
know.
the pool guy
builder
that
got
was
it
here
wrong by
before.
an inch or two. So they are planning a second story and some additions.
Why wouldn't you just make it, you had an inch, right? Is this to be permission? to
Well, I
erect?
did see one survey that said 40, another one said 39.9, so we were just.
You go on the
covering it.
safe side, exactly.
And we're asking for 30% FAR for a few additions.
Hope you didn't have that survey with the 2 foot of deck.
That's right.
That's great. And you're right at 30%, which we see for FAR here at the wonderful zoning board of Town of Islip.
See, Mr. Dunn would be able to stand on the deck and look into the next door neighbors.
Yeah, but he could stand on the ground and do that.
You weren't here, we had a height thing going on. and-
I'll bring my son next time. He'll look
Is he taller?
taller than me.
My goodness.
I have a question. What's with the garage? This is your, right? This is the, I'm on the right one? What's like the jog outs on the side of the garage?
Oh, it's a shed dormers.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bump out dormers on both sides.
But that's not public.
No, I'm just curious. It's very bizarre looking. from this
He's a
angle.
frustrated architect.
Does
Maybe
any-
just frustrated.
Just frustrated.
Failed with your algebra college. There's no way.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
All right. Next
Thank you.
application,
Good
Mr.
night.
Chairman, there's a request for an adjournment. David Begnotti and Roseanne DeLuca. Is there anyone here on that application?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next application, number 724-22, Daniel and Jennifer Franco. Permission to install a pool, leaving a side yard of 14.5 feet instead of required 18 feet. To leave a fish pond on the side property line, not having required 4 feet. And a retaining wall, having a rear yard of 0.3 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence AA District, north side of Nimbus Road, number 50, 492 feet west of Foyle Lane, Holbrook, New York. Sir, ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Jennifer Franco. The address is 50 Nimbus Road, Holbrook, 11741.
Good evening, Daniel Franco, 50 Nimbus Road, Holbrook, New York, 11749.
How are you both tonight?
Good, doing well. How are you?
So I,
How long have you been living there? You don't know the zip code?
What is it? 11741.
I thought you said 9.
I might have popped it. Sorry.
I got a question.
I lived in Holbrook all my life, so just about.
We're there 2 years. It's our second
Welcome.
year there.
Congratulations.
That's like a lifetime.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was only.
Mr. Wexler doesn't need tires with air in them. It's okay.
Only because he's from Holbrook.
So I know the question that Mr. Wex is going to ask. I'm just beating him to the punch. According to your survey, you have plenty of room to comply with this pool? Why are you asking for relief on it?
So we have 2 young kids, and we don't want to if we comply on all sides of our fence, the pool's going to be like right smack in the middle. Like I don't feel like right in the middle of the yard, and we kind of want it off to the side so that they still have other area to, like, my son likes to play soccer, baseball. So we wanted kind of running space for them, and we didn't want to just have,
So it's a more efficient use of the property.
yeah.
There you go.
I'll let the record know that I'm fine
That's
with
well
it. I know he was going to attack you on it in about 2 minutes, so that's why I was
He's
asking.
going to attack. He'll merely inquire.
Fish pond. A little close, but Deirdre from planning, any objection to this application?
It's mostly grade. There's a small water feature on the back end of it, but nothing like.
Yeah. Are you, that's something I don't know. There's an overhead wire, it looks like it's crossing right over that pool. Is that?
We're gonna bury the wires.
Oh. Good idea. All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next application number 725-22, Dennis Michelle and Stella Michelle. Permission to leave a one-story addition, 8 feet by 18 feet, having rear yard of 21.1 feet instead of required 25 feet, and driveway on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet, Residence B District, west side of Atlantic Avenue, number 16, 130 feet south of Montauk Highway, West Sayville, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Ed Silsby. I'm an architect with office on Park Avenue in Blue Point, and I have some documents that should be brought up. Sure. SILSBE. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Lorenzo and board members. Again, I'm here tonight representing my client, Dennis Michael, owner of the home at 16 Atlantic Avenue in Sayville. Thank you for hearing the application tonight. In essence, we're here tonight for a redo of a 2019 granted appeal for a small addition that required a side yard variance. The addition was built in conformity with the grant, but as Mr. Michael was closing out the permit, he provided the required fresh survey, and a subsequent town review revealed that an error was made in the 2019.
What was he originally granted?
2019.
What was he originally?
Oh, I'm sorry, for a side yard variance.
For how much?
How
many feet? What's the difference between what he was granted and what he's
Well,
here?
there's no difference on the side yard variance. What happened was the original review didn't reveal, because of an error perhaps in reading the original survey. We actually are just shy of 4 feet into an encroachment on the rear yard.
And you have surrounding properties, 2 of them look to be commercial?
Correct.
Okay.
He abuts a parking lot
That's
to
fine.
the.
I'm
Yep.
good.
You guys may all be shocked, but I know this area well.
Yep.
And
Well, there's one other issue that we wanted to address.
You're good.
The driveway.
If it's in the call of the meeting, you're okay.
Oh, very good.
you're right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great
Good night. Next application, number 647-22, Alex Castro. Permission to establish an accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68602, Residence A District, north side of Preston Street, number 131, 212.12 feet west of Radcliffe Drive, Brentwood, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Salim Ibrahim. I reside at 254-10 Francis Lewis Boulevard, Rosedale, New York, 11422.
Good evening.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Abraham.
How are you tonight?
How are you?
Fine, thank you. Mr. Biologies. This is an application that was going on for a while. We're just requesting an apartment space on the main level. Is iRanch. So the final process is get approval from zoning board regarding the apartment.
Sure, apartment's 465 square feet, driveway complies, everything else seems to be in order, correct, Mayor?
Everything's in order.
All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for 3 years.
All in favor?
All right.
Have Application granted for 3 years.
Next application number 726-22, Rigoberto Monge, permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to ISO Code Section 68602, and to leave second-story deck having a rear yard of 24 instead of the required 25 feet, Residence AA District, northeast corner of Allwood Avenue, number 166, and Connecticut Avenue Central, Islip, New York. Welcome back, Mr. Abraham. Name and address for the record.
Salim Abraham, reside at 254-10 Francis Lewis Boulevard, Rosedale, New York, 11422. This is the application, similar is iRanch. The deck is about 8 feet high. There's no stairs to go to the second level, and also all the rear yard and front yard are covered with trees. So
Sure.
basically, this privacy is an issue. You're just waiting for that part.
Once again, apartment 689 square feet, driveway complies, everything else seems to be in order. The second-story deck is 1 foot. I think we've seen them before in the past. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor? Application granted.
Next application number
Thank you very much.
727-22, Nelson Lima, permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68602, Residence A District, east side of 4th Street, number 63, 895.27 feet north of 4th Street, Brentwood, New York. Sir, ma'am, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Nelson Lima. My translator is my daughter.
His translator, his daughter.
You just pull it, you can pull it down to it. Yeah, there you go.
Hi.
Yell at us.
Good evening. My name is Ruby Lema. I'm his daughter. I'm here for translation.
And where do you reside, ma'am?
I am here for translation. Oh, Ruby Lema.
Great. How are you tonight?
We're doing
Good.
great. Thank you.
All right, great. So you, again, permission to establish an accessory apartment. It complies at 679 square feet. Driveway complies. Everything else seems to be in order. Correct, Mary?
Everything's in order.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicolia, take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Next application number 728-22, Mario Reyes and Jesus Canales Mariquin. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68602, Residence B District, south side of Ash Street, number 30, 325 feet east of Prospect Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Mario Reyes, 30 Ash Street, Central Ashley, New York, 11722.
How are you tonight?
Good.
You hear permission to establish an accessory apartment. It makes the cut at 778 square feet. Driveway complies. Everything seems to be in order, correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Everything's in order.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicolia, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
See you in 3 years.
Before we go on to the next application, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to recall number 715-22, Wojcic and Margozada E. Baldiga. Is anyone here for that application? All right. That's for the record. Next application has previously been adjourned from September 20th, 2022. Is number 692-22, 105 Diamond Court. Permission to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having improved road frontage, of 20 feet instead of the required 75 feet, and to erect retaining walls 2 feet in height, leaving rear yard of 2 feet instead of the required 4 feet, Residence B District, west terminus of Artie Avenue, 180 feet north of Paul Place, Ronkonkoma, New York. Counselor, welcome. Your name and address for the record, please.
Deirdre Cicero Moran for the applicant, 108 Terryville Road, Port Jeff Station, New York, 11776.
How are you tonight?
Good evening, members of the board. So the first thing I want to discuss in reference to the application is it says permission to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having improved road frontage of 20 feet instead of the required 75 feet. I had spoken to the building inspector who gave us the denials and X under which codes he denied under, and we're here for 280A relief. So I just want the record to be clear that we're here for 280A relief, not because the subject premises doesn't meet zoning compliance. So the required width within that,
Okay, but you weren't advertised like that.
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up first.
Oh, that's a very smart move. We may have to re-advertise if that's the way you wish to proceed.
Well, it's accessed by easement, so who are you getting the easement from?
we have 20 feet of road frontage to have access. There is 20 feet of frontage on the property already. So if that's,
Is that by an easement?
no, not by easement,
That's
it's
what they
direct
own.
access.
280A is reference to access by easement.
No, 280A is that you have to have access to a suitably improved road. We have 20 feet. The way we were told was that we needed a required 75 feet. So that's why the call of the counter seems weird. It seems as if we don't have the right to build on the lot because the lot's too small, but that's not the case. The case, we were told we were denied under 280A because the road improved frontage needed to be 75, which again, is
You
in
know,
the,
this is a threshold issue. We should really straighten this out before we go any further. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I hate to bring you back a third time, but I'd hate to see you get a grant that gets thrown out because we didn't advertise too.
I agree, so.
I don't think the call to meeting is incorrect, though. I think, because I've seen other applications like this over these 30 years. And it seems, it seems as if
You know, it's a baby.
you could
She was-
maybe advertise it both ways if that
Yeah.
would make you more comfortable. But the town has many times heard applications as an area variance if you don't have the improved frontage.
No, it is an area variance under town law section 280A.
So why don't we advertise it both ways so that you're covered in any event?
Okay, that's,
Okay.
I just wanted
Fair
it to
enough.
be
No, we
clear
appreciate-
moving forward that we weren't being,
Thank you for doing this before we argued for 45 minutes.
that's why I did it.
Well, the argument would just be Mr. Nicoli and I.
Maybe you can give us something.
Yeah. All right, so I guess it works in my favor.
Hang on a second, hang on a second. Ms. Pissarro has a question.
So we didn't notify you of the hearing because we don't have an indication that you're representing the file. So maybe you could send us something to say you're representing the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if it's an email,
No,
something.
that's fine. I
Thank
just
you.
want us to all be on the same page
Yeah,
and
appreciate
understand
it.
what relief we're actually asking for.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn and re-advertise.
Wait,
Oh,
But if there were people to be heard, we'd want to pick an agreeable date.
Is there anyone?
here? I'm sorry. go ahead.
Oh, you're the chairman, I'm sorry.
Anyone here, anyone wish to be heard in this application? Anyone wants to be heard in this application? No? All right. So now, Mr. Messina? you're-
I'll make a motion to adjourn and re-advertise. Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
All right. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
Our next application number 729-22, Robert Raymond Musacchio, Roger R. and Nancy P. Robichaud, trustees of the Robichaud Family Irrevocable Trust. Permission to leave a roof over having a side yard of 3 feet instead of the required 14 feet. Floor area ratio of 27% instead of permitted 25%. Residence Beat District, north side of Minnesota Avenue, number 51, 180 feet east of Illinois Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Sir, ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
Roger Robichaud, 51 Minnesota Avenue, Bay Shore.
Thank you,
can Pull
ma'am.
that microphone down because, yes. great.
Nancy Robichaud, 51 Minnesota Avenue, Bay Shore, New York, 11706.
Welcome.
How are you
Thank you.
tonight?
Before we proceed, I just want to let you people know that we are in contract on selling this house. And it's a holdup because of the carport. I have a letter here that was presented to us, which wanted us to present it to the board from the previous, well, from the new owners.
Yeah,
I don't.
The officer behind you
For
will
the
take,
buyers.
hand it up. That's fine.
Now, I don't know if you want us to read it or.
No, you don't read it, just hand it up.
Okay.
Who are these folks behind you? Are they the purchasers?
Friends.
They're friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Boy, they're good friends to sit through all of that. You owe them dinner, sir.
They're good people.
hi, so you have a carport 3 feet instead of 14. I'm going to ask Deirdre, maybe she has some precedent for a carport that's that close in the area.
What do we have precedent?
Well,
To reserve so we can think about this?
I mean, it's a really small, instead of in terms of the length of the property, it's a small portion
I
of it.
don't know
I don't know. If you want to reserve Mr. Wexler, that's entirely,
I mean,
They're in contract to sell.
you know.
Well, it's not, I'll go with the flow. How's that sound?
You guys,
Because you're a gentleman, sir.
you know, the adjacent house seems, by the aerial, seems to be a great distance away from the property line of where that small carport is. Under the circumstances, I don't have an issue with it, but
What's the length of the carport?
I believe it's 16 feet,
Pardon?
16 feet.
The length of a car, what's a little more? I'm good. Yeah, I just.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'm,
never to be enclosed?
No,
Never to be enclosed.
that's been closed.
They have to be, they're just gonna run with that. New owners never to be enclosed.
It's all open, yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
all right,
Application granted.
thank you.
Have a great night.
It's okay, good.
Sir, you're here waiting for an
Thank you.
application? Okay. Just want to make sure we didn't skip over anything. Next, we have 5 applications for accessory apartment renewals for a period of 3 years, as set forth on our schedule. Mr. Chairman, do you want to entertain a motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
I'll make a
Second.
motion.
All in favor? 5 accessory
And then we
apartment.
have 10 two-families.
Okay, and then the next there are 10 applications considered for family use only for renewals for a period of 3 years as set forth on the schedule. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to grant those applications.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. We also have a request for withdrawal, the application number 292-22, Stephanie and Louis Lufker III. I'll make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
One second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have,
And then we have read-ins that I will defer to Ms. Pissarro on. Sorry.
It is?
I don't need mine. I'm fine. I can read over your shoulder.
application number 323-22, Brian and Christine Lemaire. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 11, 2022, the application is denied as submitted with regard to the driveway. However, granted permission to maintain a front yard occupancy not to exceed 40%, with the board noting that up to 12% of the front yard occupancy should be considered pedestrian walkways and should be excluded from the driveway area, and granted as to the patio. On motion of
Second. Aye.
application number 409-22, Matthew Delfaus. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 11, 2022, the application is denied as to side yard of 5 feet for the ramp. However, granted permission for the deck to maintain a side yard of 6.9 feet at its closest point only, and granted as to the family use only for a period of 3 years. On motion of
Second. Aye.
application number 102-20, Mushin Kira Aman. Denied as to the accessory apartment and granted as to the remainder. On a motion of Chris.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application number 444-22, Lazaro Escobar. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 11, 2022, the application is granted, with the board noting that the addition attributes only 2.2% to the existing FAR. On motion of
All in favor?
Aye.
application number 497-22, Miguel Valentin. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 11, 2022, the application is granted. On motion of
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, I
everyone.
make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye. We're done.
See you next Tuesday.
Hang on.
Wait till we-